That's kind of like a dream of mine, though. Just like walk into a studio session and then
And see the
like just
plugin?
over the shoulder, like, oh yeah, they're just using Retrograde. I might cry or something. I might freak out.
This is the Behind the Sound podcast where we talk to producers, engineers, artists, and other creatives alike. Hosted by Sean Gray and Manic. All right, Simon, so you're here.
Yes, happy to be here.
I am really looking forward to talking with you. Why don't you tell us like who you are and what got you started in this whole journey for you?
Okay, my name is Simon Servida. I am a producer from Toronto, Canada. What else do I do? Mainly it. And then I post a lot of content online, and that's been helping build my brand. But in terms of how it started, I took piano lessons when I was 7, just because parents wanted me to do something. And then eventually I learned about making beats in FL Studio in high school. And then it kind of just took off from there.
Nice.
When you were playing the piano, when you were what age did you say?
7.
7. Did you have an idea this is what it would lead to?
Hell no. This was like, it was just like my parents wanted me to not be in the bad stuff. So
Yeah.
they just put me in extracurricular. So I was doing swimming on Monday, taekwondo on Tuesday, piano was just on Wednesday.
Got you.
Nice. So like, not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing at all. Who inspires you to be creative?
That's a good question. Who does inspire me to be creative? I guess my peers, anyone I see on Instagram, I'm just following a lot of producers that I enjoy listening to. So I'll get inspiration from that or just from music that's dropping nowadays.
Nice.
Okay.
Any like particular names or songs or anything like that?
My favorite artist right now is Giveon. So I've been listening to him a lot.
Nice.
And the Silk Sonic guys.
Nice.
They're super fire.
Nice.
So like going back, so when you first started producing, how did you know like, okay, this is what I want to do?
I didn't know. Okay, so I was producing since I was 14. I'm 27 now. And I didn't know I wanted it to be a career until first year university. How old are we when we did that? 18, 19?
18, 19.
18, 19? Yeah, because first year university, I failed my science class because that's what I thought I wanted to do. I was like, wait, whoa, this biology shit sucks. Wait, what the hell's happening? It's like, no, hey, Mom, I want to do music.
Yeah.
Because it was just like this hobby that I always ended up going back to. Like, I wasn't making beats every day, but maybe like once a month.
Yeah.
And I always had a good time when I was doing it. So I was like, okay, maybe we'll give this a try.
Nice. Where was like the connection from you getting started to then YouTube?
YouTube happened right after I graduated university. So I finished my bachelor's in music. I was working at my mom's engineering firm as like an admin assistant. So like entry-level desk job stuff. And while I was there, I was pretty much sending like constant emails to studios in Toronto looking for like an internship. I probably sent one to Orange.
Right.
Like multiple times. And no bites. No bites. So I was like, okay, like I really hate the job I'm doing and I can't get the job I want. So like, how do I spend all this extra time that I have? And YouTube is just such an easy way to work as much as you want.
Right.
So I just went with that.
Nice.
And so like for your YouTube, when you actually started it, did you like experiment with a couple different like types of content to be able to get to where you're at now, or did it just happen to so click with whatever you're doing now?
Before I do a little bit of experimenting, but nothing like completely out of the spectrum of what I'm doing right now. Because I was researching probably for months just the YouTube niche that I'm in, just to see, why is this guy getting views and why is this guy getting less views? Like, is it the editing? Is it the way he talks to the camera? Is it the length of the video? So as soon as I started, I already knew exactly what kind of content I wanted to make.
Right.
Just because I had so much preparation beforehand.
Nice. So I first found you when you were at like roughly 2,000 subscribers.
That's pre-pandemic, right?
That was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And then we met in 2020 at a Beat Cave event.
Yeah.
I think at the time you're roughly around like 250,000.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you grow from first 2,000 to then 250,000, and now you have 630,000?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you go from within those 2 years gaining from 250 to 630? Because that's just mind blowing.
Very, very fortunate. Just like the YouTube algorithm blesses me as much as I want. But
I see your ads like all the time.
Yeah.
Like while I'm scrolling through YouTube.
that one's for my course. But for the YouTube channel, it's been kind of the YouTube algorithm that's been helping me out. But I do believe that, good content gets pushed.
Yeah, gets pushed up.
So I was just fortunate enough to get enough eyes on me and enough people just kind of liked what I did. But I wasn't really doing anything intentional. I was just trying to put out the best stuff I could.
Yeah. And I noticed you're very yourself on YouTube, and you're very witty and like charming on YouTube. How does that play like a role in like the music that you make, and also like the products that you make, like the plugin and the course?
Just being myself is a big part of everything because it's me. I have to put my and I was also thinking, like, if I was 10 years younger, if I was a kid learning beats for the first time, I want to be slightly more entertained by a tutorial. So
right,
I was creating the content I was creating was stuff that I wanted to see if I was a kid.
That's actually amazing. Actually, like that's a key point. I think that's something to take away from for sure, because like I don't think a lot of people do that. They kind of just go with whatever the trend is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this guy's doing like this style of like filming or whatever. But you took that approach of like, hey, like, what did I want to see when I was coming up? And you just made that, and people fucking resonate with it.
Yeah, and it's like important to know your demographic as well. I know for mine, probably like on the younger side, we'll say like 14 to 18 is the majority. So, okay, 14-year-old Simon would want to see this.
Right.
As, opposed to, someone with a higher age demographic. So I'm thinking about, okay, this little 14-year-old boy, he probably got ADD. So I'm going through the shit quick now.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about, how they would feel if they watched it.
Right. And your personality just like comes out, and I feel like a big reason why you're so successful on YouTube is because people can kind of relate to that side of your personality, which was a big reason why I got into you was because like this dude just acts like himself. He's funny. Like he's not trying too hard. Not only is he giving like good information, but it is entertaining at the same time. So I think, like congrats on you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
huge.
always been the goal. Really appreciate that. That's coming forward.
Yeah. For like because like for your YouTube, I haven't like really tapped into your YouTube. For the people that haven't like really like tapped in, tell us what it's more so about. Like, what's your goal with having your YouTube?
The goal with having the YouTube before, like let's say when I started 2018, so 3 years ago, it was pretty much just to get as much information out as possible. I noticed that there wasn't as much theory information, especially among like the FL Studio space. Like you can find theory stuff, but those guys are just talking in front of a piano. But in terms of like that producer niche, there wasn't a lot of theory. So I was trying to just dump my entire university degree onto my YouTube channel, just so like I knew that there was a bit more of a demand for that. But nowadays, I don't really do as many tutorials just because I kind of gave you on the majority of the knowledge I have. Like I'm not going to be repetitive. So nowadays, I'm just creating more entertaining producer content that would kind of hit that mass audience. Like if we ask like some regular person down the street who's an accountant, like tell them what a placement is, they're definitely not going to know what that is.
Right.
They know what a beat is though. They know what music is.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to hit that broader spectrum.
So someone that like who is off the street, who has
Exactly.
no real knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just likes music.
Can like come across your channel and find it entertaining.
Exactly. Because like that random person's not going to be scrolling through YouTube and what the title's going to say Omnisphere. Like, what's this?
Yeah.
What's this, like space constellation stuff? Oh, wait, we're making beats all of a sudden? Like,
Yeah.
That like when it gets super specific like that, it's hard to reach out farther.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think like with the content you're making now, it can not only be like marketed on YouTube, but then it could go to like TikTok, like Snapchat ads or whatever, maybe if you wanted to do that. But it could go like in other mediums other than YouTube, which I think is key if you're trying to grow. And if you are trying to grow like you are, like I think you're hitting that benchmark. So that's good.
Yeah. So like for like your music and stuff, like do you have like any records out or like what are some of like your favorite works that you've worked on?
Man, everything you make and you look
Yeah.
back, you just cringe at it. I have a couple records of me singing and rapping, and they've done okay, and I'm kind of proud of a couple of them. I definitely do want to get my streaming numbers up. I haven't produced a lot for people because
Is that a goal of yours?
it is within my own terms.
Yeah.
Like I like being in my studio just because I'm super comfortable there.
Right.
So I'm not too much into going downtown and hopping between studio sessions and stuff like that. I'd rather bring, friends and people I like into my own space and create there.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like that's where my best product comes from.
Right.
But it's definitely a goal.
Right. So like if there were some names that you could throw out that you would want to produce for, who would they be?
Just the classics, the Drakes and the J. Coles and the Kendricks and the Giveons, Anderson .Paak. There's probably 100 ones that I really, really want to work with, but not sure how I'm gonna get there yet.
I have a follow-up question to that. So somebody asked me this actually recently. I'm gonna ask you too. So of all the records you've heard in the past year,
Okay.
what's one record that you wish you would have produced?
Like I get the credit for it, or am I actually changing how it sounds?
Like you were part of the production process and helped produce it.
Is the song still the same as it is?
Yes, it's still the same.
So what's my favorite song?
Yeah, essentially.
What's my favorite song right now? Hold
that
on.
you heard in the past year.
Don't Recommend by Reagan Capaci.
I haven't heard that one. Reagan Capaci.
I just go on like Discover Weekly now. I'm not really
That's interesting.
I'm not really like typing in artists to search for.
Yeah.
Just maybe because there's so many that you don't even know where to start. But I just kind of like let the algorithm take over my life now.
Interesting.
Gosh, has that been like? Have you really liked that like so far? Has it
Obviously,
been like pretty
yeah,
good?
there's like a bunch of songs that I'm definitely not gonna fuck with, but if it does hit, then I'm pretty
Yeah.
satisfied. Like, oh damn, they know me so well.
Yeah.
Are you like the type of person, like when you find that song that does resonate with you, do you go on like a deeper dive into like maybe who that artist was or anything?
Sometimes. So, I'm definitely one of those people that if I really like a song, that thing's on loop probably like 100, 200 times.
Word.
So you're plugging
Yeah.
Retrograde.
Yes.
So I did watch the video about like how that came into fruition. And obviously like you took a problem that you were facing every day. Maybe not every day, but when you wanted to do a certain style of production move, it took you a lot longer. But I guess the opportunity kind of just presented itself to you when that developer hit you up, right? Mm-hmm. So what made you want to, make Retrograde, I guess? Like what really made you want to make Retrograde and turn it into what it is? Because that thing's sick.
The money. The money. Bro, Kyle,
fair.
you guys know Kyle Beats?
Yeah,
He said like on one of his podcasts, he made $1 million off of Drip.
that's crazy. And he was marketing that thing like crazy.
And then, man, as soon as I heard that, like my ears started ringing, my mouth started watering. I was like, wait, what about reversing stuff? No, seriously, yeah, it was a problem that I did face. Like, it's not like a big problem. Like, you can still do it in your DOS. It's just kind of like this irritating little
right.
thing that I wish.
Yeah, so you poured a lot of money into like developing the thing, but those small things, because it's like an investment in time, right? So yeah, sure, you spent a lot of money developing this, but now you're gonna gain a lot of time back because you don't have to do that ever again, where you got to chop it up.
Yeah.
So you're gonna save a lot of time that way, and then what you did was, hey, this is something cool that I could actually share with people, and help other people save time too. Obviously it's like paying dividends for you. So, but like run me through like the process of what that was like, and would you do it again?
So the process for that was it came with that initial problem. Like,
Right.
okay, this chopping and reversing stuff is pretty damn annoying. And I came to my developer with that problem, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we can do that pretty easily."
Sorry to cut you off. Did he understand music?
Yeah, he
Right?
made music, so
Okay, that's cool.
he's like
then.
kind of in.
How did you guys connect?
He's in Waterloo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he just reached out to me because he worked with a couple other YouTubers on their plugin, and he reached out to me like a year before we actually started working, but I didn't have an idea for him until
that.
I kept reversing stuff and this problem kept coming up. So that's when I hit him back up. I was like, "Oh, can you do this?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." So it was that initial problem at the beginning, and then just like to make sure the marketing is all cool, like I'll type in reverse plugin, and then I notice that there's maybe 4 or 5 other plugins that can do the exact same thing by, an assortment of companies. So now the problem is, okay, how do we make this different from theirs?
Right.
So, there is plugins that just does the reverse, but for our plugin, we can filter it, we can change the time subdivision, we can ping pong the signal so that it goes left and right, we can automate the dry wet with like a single button, we can unlink the left and right channels so both sides are doing like a random
Their own
reverse
thing.
each. Yeah,
So you'd have like a quarter on one side and like an eighth on the other.
so that's like all those little things. That's when it started to become like my plugin
Right.
instead of what everybody else's does. Because there's like a billion EQs, there's a billion compressors, but we're just thinking about
You're thinking about like outside the box.
yeah, like reversing is definitely not a completely new thing.
Yeah.
But we had to make it stand out from the other ones.
Yeah, exactly. But did you enjoy like that whole process? Like outside of like the goal of like making money?
It was cool. Yeah, it's like it's a fun little because it's still creative in its like concept. Just
Right.
thinking about what can the audio do, and then also just talking about like the design of the plugin itself, just that aspect. Then thinking about like the workflow. Oh, if my mouse is here and I'm starting there, why would the dry wet be on the left side? Shouldn't it be on the right side instead?
Right.
And just thinking about like all those minute little details just to make that experience so seamless. That was kind of fun, and I definitely would do it again.
Yeah.
But it's pretty
Time consuming.
time consuming, cost
Expensive.
consuming. Yeah, a lot of that stuff.
How was working with that developer though? Like you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was pretty easy. Just like weekly updates. Like he was doing the majority of the work, and I was kind of being like managing
oversee-
position. Getting like the artists ready and having them coordinate, and then once it's done, sending it to people, getting the YouTube videos and the marketing ready for all that stuff.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas for a next plugin or?
Not right now. I'm not gonna force it. Like
Yeah.
if it takes me a year, like how the last one works, I don't mind waiting a year
Nice.
until something comes up. But just like I just think I have to see how like the producer landscape changes a bit and what kind of stuff we're making
Yeah.
until it's time to start going.
Now has Retrograde has it kind of hit goals that you've wanted to hit?
Yeah, it made money. That was
Yeah.
like the only goal for it.
Yeah. Now, how about have you like come across somebody who like may not know you that is using it?
No.
No.
I haven't run ads for it yet, so
Oh,
like it's
interesting.
still like within the circle of people I know.
So just like natural,
yeah,
like just your natural market. Interesting.
that's kind of like a dream of mine though. Just like walk into a studio session and then
And see the
like just
plugin?
over the shoulder, like oh yeah, they're just using Retrograde. I might cry or something. I might freak out.
Yeah, it's a sick plugin. I couldn't get it to work in Pro Tools though. I was a
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't have AAX.
little disappointed there, but
We just talked about it for 5 minutes. Oh yeah, it doesn't work by the way.
no, it's I've definitely used it and it's fun. I like it a lot. So yeah, congrats on that. And thank you for like not only giving it to me, but to the community. I think it's definitely useful. So
Glad you like it.
yeah.
Are you in FL, Ableton, Logic, Pro Tools? Which
FL
one?
Gang.
FL gang?
FL gang,
gang.
yeah.
11 or 20?
20, 20.
20?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Bro,
we're
these
all-
11 guys are living in the past.
Yeah, and I think 20 is where it's at now.
Yeah, no, I use 20 as well. Do you find that, like, have you used other plugins prior when you're learning to make beats and learning on how to produce? Or was it always FL from the start?
Oh, like other DAWs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used a couple. I used Pro Tools for a little bit because I was doing film scoring in university.
Right.
I don't like FL's like video play feature. So Pro Tools had a good one, so I was using that for a while. There's another one called Digital Performer that's like
Yeah.
kind of exclusively for film scoring.
Yeah.
And that was the main one I used for that. Definitely forgot how to use those. So right now it's FL.
Word.
Honestly, I think it's good to know like a little bit of each.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
like FL gang till I die, but that's not going to translate in some sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have found it useful when I'm in sessions. You know, I kind of quickly learned Ableton, and so now like when someone's primarily in Ableton, I can kind of get in there a little bit. 'Cause
Yeah.
I kind of know what I'm doing, and then the same thing with like Logic and FL and Pro Tools. Like I think it's important. Yeah, like you should just get the demo and
Like, and yeah, enough
Play
to
with
like
it.
lay some drums down. Like, I don't need to know all this Ableton rack sound design stuff. But
yeah,
Yeah.
put some hi-hats down or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
At least know like the basic workflow.
Yeah.
So like that you can be productive in a session with somebody else.
So you mentioned like film scoring. Is that something that like intrigues you, like to a certain extent?
yeah.
Would you definitely get into that, or like not so much?
That's what I wanted to do after I graduated university. So I was doing that for like maybe a 2 years after, but man, that industry got no money in it.
Really?
like no money at all. Just because if we're thinking about it, like it's how hard is it to make a movie as opposed to making a song?
Right.
Like a movie is like 100 or dozens of people working on it. You got editors, cinematographers, set designers, blah, blah, blah. And music is post-production,
Right.
which means you are the last step of the puzzle. So in these indie movies, usually, like, we ran out of budget, guys.
Yeah.
You gotta do me this solid. And that's like kind of starting out, and it was just really hard to get some momentum in that industry. Like I want to definitely go back to it because I love doing that stuff so much, but it has to be in a place where I'm secure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So like would you say like that's a passion of yours is like film score?
Huge passion.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. If I wasn't doing like music stuff, I'd probably do like movie stuff.
Nice. Nice. That's interesting. So how do you think that you might be able to get there?
Ooh, no clue. Someone got to reach out to me. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that lane.
Yeah, if we have any like TV supervisors or anything like that, like hit up Simon because
One thing I do want to ask is when you were growing up as a kid, because everybody had like that one thing they wanted to be, you know what I mean? Like when they were growing up, did you always see music, or what was that thing for you? What were you like? Oh, when I'm older, I'm gonna be this.
I wanted to be a doctor, and I was thinking about this.
Ooh.
Like, I don't think I wanted to be a doctor. I think like my mom incepted like
Yeah,
the doctor
it's
career
you.
like into me. She'd be kind of like pushing me to go there, and she'd be kind of like gassing me up. So like, let's say I put some eye drops on my grandpa like on a random Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, you're so good at that. You should be a
Oh,
doctor.
you should be a
And I'm like,
doctor.
yo, you're kind of right. I'm kind of nice at this. So I wanted to be a doctor. That's why I was like taking science stuff in university. But
Did you like enjoy it at a certain period of time and then like get straight away, or was it more so kind of like I never liked it, but I'm just doing it?
never liked it. But I was just doing it,
Word.
making the parents proud.
Where so when you found music, you were probably like made you like really happy.
Yeah, music. There's a lot of stuff that makes me happy. So it was kind of like video games make me happy, and going out with friends and movies and stuff like that. There was a lot of stuff that made me happy. So it was never like, oh wow, this music is so much better. Like no, I enjoyed a lot of stuff when I was a kid.
right.
I don't know. I'm not really sure why I picked music out of all the other ones.
How did your parents feel about you pursuing music and not becoming a doctor?
They were pretty cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like shout out to them because
Shout out parents.
my music was trash back then too. Imagine you come with them with trash music, and my mom like, Mom, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life.
But did you start off like being like an artist and making your own stuff?
No, just like producing,
Okay.
just making beats. Yeah.
So when did because you mentioned that you did like some of your own stuff too. When did that like get into play?
That was maybe a few years ago. It was like I would still consider the artist and like the songwriting stuff and the singing like that's a hobby. Like I would consider myself as a producer, like okay, I'm a professional,
Yeah.
but for the artist side, I'm a hobbyist. So that's stuff mainly for fun.
You work full time as a music producer. Did you work a job prior to that?
Yeah, so I worked at my mom's engineering firm doing the desk job, and that was just kind of like minimum wage, 5 days a week, and it definitely wasn't. I knew there wasn't longevity in that, so I told my parents like, okay, at the beginning of the year, I'm gonna quit. Like, just give me 1 year, just let me work as much as I can, and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like it was kind of like risky, like not that risky because
How old were you at the time?
maybe 23.
Okay.
Yeah. So as soon as I quit, I was just working out of my mom's basement for a year straight, and that's all I needed to like get everything going.
So at that time when you were, because that's when you really like locked in with YouTube, right? So like how, because you know those YouTubers that like, do you start off with tight beats and stuff like that, or was it more so just like straight tutorials at the beginning?
Straight tutorials.
Straight
I
tutorials?
knew exactly what I was doing.
Word.
Yeah.
How many videos were you posting a week?
3 a week,
Dang.
which is insane to think about now because now I'm doing like one a month.
And you're still getting massive growth.
Yeah. No, like I put more time into. It's almost like 3 videos condensed into like one really good video. Like the quality is much better than what I was making before.
Right. So like within that year, so you went from 0 subscribers. What was
100,000.
So from 0 to 100,000 in
0
the
to
first
100.
year.
Yeah.
holy shit? That's crazy. So how did you know that whatever you were doing was working?
I saw. Oh man, because I found it popping really early because this one YouTuber, Kyle Beats, he had 50K subscribers at the time. I had 0, and within that same month I started in January, he had a beat contest, and I submitted like a beat to his contest. So
Right.
I was fortunate enough to get all his traffic come into my channel,
Ooh.
and that was like that got me my first 1,000, which a lot of YouTubers say is the hardest to get. Like that 0 to 1,000 is really tough, but I was able to get that in my first month, so it felt like I had this good head start going into the rest of the year.
So what was that interaction like with your parents? Like after the year, you're like, check this out, 0 to 100.
Man, they're my biggest fans. They like tell all my neighbors to subscribe. They're going like door to door. Hey, my son's on YouTube. Subscribe to him. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. No, they've been cool with it. Yeah, they've always been really supportive. I think they knew that I liked. They can see that I was really passionate in what I was doing. So
Yeah.
and I told them like, okay, don't worry, I'll be good because this was really like the only option I had left. Like the school definitely wasn't gonna be a thing that
It wasn't for you.
Dr. Dream was out of the door years ago. So this was it.
What's kind of like the next thing you're working towards?
The next thing I'm working towards, so like those dream placements are always gonna be there. I'm definitely in no rush. Like if I get it in 20 years, like that's fine. I'm still gonna be doing what I'm doing. Right now, I kind of just want to make like okay. I think about like the overall goal of what I'm doing. I want to just make good music and make money. And you don't necessarily need a big artist to make good music.
Right.
So I'm just trying to make music right now.
Yeah.
Just because I have this audience that I've built up for like the last few years that will support me and do whatever thing I want, I can really start developing or just getting these random artists in Toronto just to sing on some shit for me.
Right. Tell me how like the beat course came about. Why did you decide to do that?
So for that one, I had this marketing guy reach out to me, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I do courses with YouTubers." He listed off some YouTubers, like cooking guys and YouTube algorithm guys. I'm like, "Oh wait, I love all these guys." So that's when I really tapped in with him. Then we just started talking about, what's good content for them. I was thinking always about theory because I talk about theory on my channel, but not in depth enough because
Right.
I know that if I kind of dig really deep into it, like it's gonna be less entertaining. So I kind of give like really digestible little knowledge nuggets.
Yeah.
So when I talked to the guy, I was like, okay, like I can really talk about this stuff here in a course where people are like not just trying to get entertained, but who really want to learn.
Yeah.
So that's how the course came about, just because we wanted to create that, a really in-depth theory course that catered to the music producer, not, to like a random harp player
Right.
in the 70s.
Right. So you're kind of targeting the audience that you already had that wanted to take that deeper dive. And I think that you had given them enough little bit of nuggets along the way that like you had them sold already.
Yeah, you couldn't do the course first and then like the YouTube second. Had to be.
Yeah, because I think you had shown that, hey, like I provided you guys like enough value over these years. You've gotten to learn and you've gotten a lot of value from the content that I've made. And now you've taken it and you're like, if you really want to learn and get a deeper dive into it, here's this course for you. Would you say like that course is maybe for somebody who is just opening up FL for the first time?
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah?
I made it for beginner to intermediate producers.
Got you.
Definitely for the advanced, like who kind of know their stuff. I'm not sure how much I'll be helping them, but for a beginner and intermediate, I'm sure they'll find it really helpful.
And what was that like making the course? Was it entertaining for you?
Kind of. Like there's some parts where like you just have to go over, like there's like boring concepts that you have to teach, like what's a note?
Yeah.
Like this is C. You gotta remember this is C. Like how entertaining can you make it? So there are some like when you're just trying to get their legs in it's a bit boring, but when you can start really hitting your stride, like later with chord progressions and harmonies and voice leading, that's when it gets more interesting.
Is there anything that you wanted to like add to the course that you maybe didn't get to?
No. I also like updated it like twice. Like I added some
Nice.
new sections. I brought in some like people to talk about, their projects. So I think it's done in
Nice.
terms of the content wise.
Do you have like, are you thinking about maybe doing like another course of some sort?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely something either around production, like in terms of how to not just make a beat, but, take a beat and turn it into a song. And then,
Right.
getting into like working with singers and, vocal chains and, a bit of mixing stuff, or like sample making, because
Nice.
sample making's been like taking up the last 2 years for me. So I've been really getting into that world.
What sparked that? What sparked it from like you starting off as like producer making beats and then like started to lock in on just like samples?
Right now, I kind of think it's more fun than making beats, just because I can really like get creative and into that theory bag and doing the stuff I learned. It feels like there's more room for experimenting. So yeah, I've been really enjoying samples, and like the majority of the producers I follow are really, really good sample makers. So I'm just been inspired by those guys.
Yeah, your samples are really, really dope.
Thank you.
Yeah. So your vocal, like your samples that have vocals in them, how do you go about making those?
Bunch of different ways, man. I'm in my little office space like the whole week, just like experimenting with vocals especially. And there's like a couple of things I learned that I can go to, but it's a lot of understanding which register I'm singing in, how far away from the microphone I'm singing. It's like sometimes I'll put it in the corner and sing like on the other end of the room just to like get some kind of choir thing going.
Interesting.
Like I noticed that falsetto vocals specifically, if you pitch that down, it sounds really nice. And then there's other, methods like speeding or like recording it slower and then speeding up, playing with the formants. certain plugins like Reverb and like a bunch of Antares has a lot of really good like vocal plugins.
Yeah, I haven't checked those out yet, but
There's so many things you can do. And then, on top of that, just, harmonies, and then that kind of goes into like the three bag and, layering, vocals on top of each other. It's all, it's a lot. It's all good though.
How do you like turn it into something that you then get to feel proud about and share with other people?
The way I make samples now, I kind of treat it like I'm an artist, because I'm thinking about how people sampled records back in the day. They're not sampling guys who made loops for the sake of loops. They were
Exactly.
genuine artists creating, art that's true to them.
Right.
And so that's kind of the mindset I have when I make samples nowadays, where I'm trying to just create music that's true to myself. And, with that, there's a lot of ways you can kind of tackle it. But if I'm making music that's true to myself, there's never actually a wrong answer, because
Right.
it's a Simon Servida type beat. Like, okay,
every time,
bro, I'm 100% authentic Simon Servida type beat every time, because I made it.
Right. I like that. I like that you said that you were coming at, like, you're making these samples with the approach of being like an artist.
Mm-hmm.
As producers, people that like, they just don't do that enough. Even when it comes to making beats. How do you keep the artist in mind?
I don't. If I'm the sample maker, it's not my job.
Right.
You guys better figure it out. But I'm just kind of creating the art I feel like making. I think that's part of
For you.
being a true artist. Like, you're kind of unapologetic about how you make your music. Like, oh, maybe the vocals are too loud. Well, this is my sample. You better just filter it out, because
Right.
I'm not creating music for you. I'm creating it for myself.
Right.
And it's going to resonate with somebody, and somebody's going to figure out how to make that work with the artist.
Right. I really like how you truly are doing it for yourself. And I think there's like a lot that can be learned from doing that, because I feel like a lot of people, they're not doing it for themselves. Like, they are, oh, I just want to get this placement. Oh, I want to work with this dude. And it kind of shows that it's like not authentic. And that's one thing that I've noticed about you, and everything that you do. It's always authentic. Like,
Thank you.
It's always authentic. At the end of the day, I'm like, I listen to it, I'm like, yeah, this is Simon. Like, you could tell that the dude was probably laughing while he was making this, and like,
Hey, how'd you know about
having
that?
the time of his life, like, making this stuff.
I feel like there's a time and place for samples, and I feel like there's becoming like a difference between like a sample and a loop. Sometimes there's like a week where I'll just kind of push out like 10 loops, and they're just this quick little 4-bar repetitive catchy thing.
Right.
And there's not much artistry behind it, but sometimes you just need a loop. But when I think of a sample, then I'm thinking of something that can stand on its own 2 legs.
Right. Even without drums.
Without
a vocal.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can be, it's literally its own,
Yeah.
like, its own thing.
Yeah, but then a loop is, and there's nothing wrong with a loop, because
Yeah.
there's definitely like
There's
some good
loops
places
out
for
there.
them. Oh
Yeah.
man, there's some nice catchy loops that are just like super simple and so effective.
Like-
Those are really satisfying to make too, actually.
Yeah.
Where do you think like music's going, like in like the next few years?
I think it's probably gonna go back to like, because right now we're on the kind of like the 80s, 90s wave.
Yeah.
It's just gonna like go back up to like 2000s.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. You
I
know,
agree.
like the cycle of 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like, I'm seeing like these bands come back. Like, bands that I like grew up listening to, like,
Yeah, like punk.
yeah, like the punk. I
Punk
think
style.
that's gonna start like
Yeah.
making a comeback too. I've already started seeing that, but like, it really hasn't like hit like mainstream, whereas like 80s like synthwave like kind of has with
Yeah.
like The Weeknd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're gonna start seeing like that 2000s come back.
Bro, I'm curious, like maybe 5-10 years from now, like is like that Lex Luger Nexus trap sound coming
Really?
back?
Really?
Do you think so? 'Cause
It'll
that's
probably,
like,
it'll probably
It'll
come back.
It will come back.
It'll come back at some point.
Yeah.
which is crazy, because like right now and like 5 years ago, like man, that's it. Oh damn, that sounds dated.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like the most dated thing ever. But maybe in 10 years, it's
I think
gonna be
it'll-
like the
There's
hottest
a
thing
way.
again.
Because
I feel like there's a way to achieve it.
Mm.
So like if you like, it'll be a a spin-off off of like the past.
Mm-hmm.
However, it'll still have that new feel to it when it's done correct.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's not going to be necessary that they went back to Nexus and took that same sound and then made a beat.
Mm-hmm.
They took it and they revamped it a little bit to be able to make it what it is in the new age.
Yeah, it's a little bit more modern. Because
Yeah.
if you think about it, like us as producers, like we go back and listen to old records and we're influenced and we get inspired by them and we might take those and then use them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that will, like you said, it will make a comeback. I just don't know in like which form yet.
Yeah. That's interesting too. Like if we're just kind of running through cycles, how do we even get anything new?
I don't think that we do really get, like we are getting something new, but we're just getting a new form of it. So like it's its own new life, but
I think that's what separates the people that are really successful, because it's like their creative, like their creativity is like you're now meshing different things that were never meshed before.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that it's all like freshly scratched new, like it's the only time it's ever been done. It's more so kind of like you're meshing things that were never meshed before.
And if you look back to at like just kind of like the history of music, if you're the first to do something, it's not generally like accepted, right?
Hell no.
It's usually the second and third people that are successful with it. And I think also like we are like us humans, like we kind of are gravitated towards what sounds kind of familiar, right? So like we like how, you know, maybe like the 60s and 70s sound and like how the 80s sound could, because it's familiar, but now we have a new twist on it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it new. So it's because it's like, oh, like you kind of, like if you grew up in the 80s, right, and now you're listening to like The Weeknd, it might resonate with you a lot, right? So, and I think the people that are really good at doing that is they understand like what music was at that time and can turn it into, it's still new, but it still reminds you of what it was like at that time.
Because I'm thinking like, okay, the probably like the biggest sound that came from like the last 10, 15 years is the 808. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
You know, 70s and 80s didn't have an 808. And, you know, we're now using influences from the 70s and 80s, but now we're just adding
with an 808.
With an 808. So I'm thinking like, what's the next 808? What's the next thing that we're slapping all this sampled inspiration on top of? Like that's kind of what I'm thinking.
I think it'll be more like it won't be a specific sound in my opinion. It'll just be the use of live instrumentation.
I think
So it'll be like you'll start hearing like trap records with a live piano and a live guitar and like live drums. You know what I mean? Like things like that. That's where I think personally it's gonna go to. But like, who knows, right?
Who knows?
I think just because of like the pandemic, people are like, they want to like get together into a room and kind of get back to that. So I think we're going to kind of see like a little bit of a spark from that. So like we're going to see some bands, we're going to see some more like human to human interaction, and that's going to play like a role in how music gets created today. But it is hard to say. Like I also agree with you. I think like we are going to see like more live instrumentation, and I think we're going to see more people kind of using instruments that like are kind of obscure. Like remember when like producers like found the kalimba and everybody started sampling the kalimba and like started using it in their productions? It's still a thing. I think we're going to just see a little bit more of that now.
Even like when I met you, it was at the Kilometer House. And like I saw an instrument. It was like a violin with one string.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Bro, it was weird.
but it was insane.
Yeah.
Because like they played every note on the scale. It's like, how do you do that with the one string? You know what I mean? So it's like more of that stuff is gonna get like incorporated. I think
That kind of reminds me of like the 2000s like Timbaland era, where it's like sampling like Arabic strings and like that, like they're going like real foreign. Yeah, I can see that coming back.
Yeah.
But like, what's the next 808? That's a tough question.
I'm thinking about it like right now. Maybe like it has to do just like technology.
I think so too. I think technology will play a role in it.
Yeah, like so like the 808 drum machine,
Mm-hmm.
and you couldn't make dubstep back then because there was no synthesizers like Serum that were like powerful enough. So I think it's whatever. It's up to the engineer guys.
I think it's really gonna come down to it's gonna be like the music makers, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be the consumer who kind of dictates what's going to be like the next 808 because we are going to kind of cater towards what the market wants.
Yeah.
So yeah, I it's tough to say though.
Do you guys want to be like that front runner?
When Mamek and I did our interview, we want to be a part of some sort of shift in the culture. So we want to be a part of that in some way. And I definitely like want to be contributing to that, whether like that's on the engineer side or just in general. Definitely like want to kind of make an impact at the end of the day.
I want people to hear this that's playing on the radio and then hear my shit and be like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like that's like it's so different, but still good. You know what I mean? Cause like there's one thing that I feel like is very important in all music and why like things can resonate with other people, and that's just feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that aspect of feel. So it's like you could play the right chords or you could play the wrong chords, but if the chords feel good, then they feel good. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like if you have that incorporation of feel into it and you do something obscure, like completely out of the blue, like you put like 808s in the wrong key and all of that, you know what I mean? But if for some reason feels good, it's going to be like, whoa, I don't know why this feels good, but it feels good, you know what I mean? So like I want to do something like that and just be able to like experiment and be like, I don't care if this does numbers or not.
Okay.
I really just care about changing the culture and showing people that like, yo, like you don't just have to follow the wave the whole time.
You want to be
You know what I
before
mean?
your time?
Yeah.
I want to be on time.
You want to be on time?
Yeah.
In which sense?
Why is
I
that?
don't want to be Edgar Allan Poe, who's an amazing poet, but they discover his shit 50 years later and
Right.
he's dead.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I think you're already on time.
Thank you.
To some extent, you know, like you have your YouTube and everything, and people are you have like a massive audience that will pretty much do whatever you say. So right, like you almost have like a cult following in some way. But
Do you get recognized outside? Like
Sometimes.
walking down the street?
Sometimes, a couple times. Not as much as anymore because I got the mask, but I used to a bit.
What's the weirdest place you've been like approached by people? It's
Airport.
like, airport?
Airport. I was like going on vacation to Japan with my family.
ooh,
And like these three guys just like stopped me, like, "Oh, you're Simon Servida." And he was like, "Oh yeah." And so he took a picture with them. And like this was funny because it was the first time I got recognized in front of my family. Like I've been recognized before, but
not in
like
front
just
of
kind of by myself.
Yeah.
So then they see it. And then they're just kind of like sitting back at the corner, like waiting for me to finish up.
How does that make you feel though?
Oh, it made me feel amazing.
Must be like a little ego boost.
Oh, massive ego boost. Like as soon as they're
I love
gone,
it.
like I'm looking over my shoulder. Come on, guys, we're gonna miss our flight. Like the fucking man.
I love it. That's cool.
Wait, I want to go back to this. If it sounds good, it's good thing.
Yeah.
So Gravy, how do you guys feel about like soft clipper on the master? It's good. It's good.
I love it.
Bro, I have like that's my mix. I have a soft clipper on my master.
How do you feel about like the guys who are saying like, they have like a million things running down and stuff like that?
If it sounds
running-
good, it sounds good.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes and no, but I kind of take like the technical approach from it too. So I try to understand the technical side of it first before I'm like, okay, it sounds good if it sounds good. Like, yes, but I want to understand, is that okay? And I've started to kind of like, when I first got like started, I used to take that technical approach and be like, no, that's not right. That's wrong. And then I think just kind of like after collaborating with like enough people and enough artists, especially, do what sounds good at the end of the day. But like, what do you mean by like running down.
You
They're
know,
having
there's
like
like
sound godizers and like
sound whatever. Like there's guys that are like super technical and their LUFS and like all that engineering stuff, and then the other guy beside him, soft clipper on the master.
So the way I like to kind of approach it is I want people to understand why they're doing it. Because as an engineer, if someone sends me a beat in FL that has a soft clipper and then they slam some vocals on it, and then now it's getting limited because they have to squeeze some vocals on there. Now it has like this texture in there that's kind of like caked onto like the rough that when they send me then the stems, it doesn't have that. So it makes it really hard for me as an engineer to then have to try and recreate that somehow because it takes time. Like I have to like oversaturate like the 808 to get it to cut similar to the rough. So I want people to understand maybe like why they're doing these things, and maybe they just don't have to, you know? Like they don't have to at the end of the day.
Why do you think they do it then? Because people just said?
Because people want things loud. And yes, I think people they watch YouTube and they go, oh, well, like, this guy does it, so it's fine. And he's got big placements, so it's fine. And I think we kind of take for granted a little bit of, like, the technical side. And I obviously, like, people are just lazy and, like, they don't want to know. That's fine. That's what us engineers are here for, so that we can facilitate for having to recreate that harmonic content that is like just baked in the rough mix. So
I feel like at the end of the day, it really just comes down to feel, to be honest.
That's like, yeah, Gravy's giving like the runaround about the harmonics and stuff, but he still puts soft clipper on the master, so we're at the same page here.
Right. But
It's like I think the difference is that he puts a soft clapper on the master for a reason. It's not like I saw Simon Servida doing a tutorial. He had this on the master. You know what? Let me just do it too, and not know what the hell it's for.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I think the way what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, like do what sounds good, but understand maybe why you're doing it. And because, like, as an engineer, I have to understand that. And I then have to recreate that, because otherwise the artist and the producer, and they're not going to be happy because, well, they set me up for failure because there's like that baked saturation on the rough. And it's like super loud, like 6 luffs, just way too loud. And it's like, has no feel in it. And everything just kind of like feels like it's pushed up like a glass wall. And it's like, well, you know, and so I get kind of pushed back into a corner sometimes. So I think if you're going to see someone use like a plugin or whatever, then like I say just play with it a little bit more and try to understand it. That's all.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, people would just be listening to shit.
Yeah, but like soft clipper all the way, bro. like
yeah,
I use a soft clipper, but that for a reason. So,
Yeah.
T-Rex, baby.
Oh my god, me too. Do you guys think you have enough plugins?
I got way too many.
Yeah,
But it's so hard to like say no to like the cool new plugin that comes out.
I think it's easy to say no.
Yeah,
Like-
I'm on that. I think it's easy to say no for me.
Like, what's your favorite like EQ?
Bad filter.
If they come out with a 4, you're not gonna cop that?
Oh, I probably would.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
cop it.
I'm like on the
If
stick
it
to
ain't
what
broke,
you know.
don't fix it.
Yeah, like stick to what you know and what works, but also set aside some time for experimentation and learning new things and like learning new plugins. But like if I'm like on a tight deadline, like on a mix, I am playing around, bro.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to what I know.
Yeah.
So
Fair.
what about you?
Feels like I can't get enough plugins.
Why is that?
I don't know. Just something about the way like plugins look too. If a plugin looks dated, like I'll stop using it too.
Really?
Yeah. There's
Interesting.
just something like visually that it just has to look kind of cool. Like that's one of the reasons like I never used Ableton, because it was just so gray to me.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
okay, FL looks
So,
a
like,
little
there-
sleeker.
There's like an aesthetics thing that needs
Yeah,
to like
kind of.
that you need to fulfill.
Yeah, like if somebody puts me on like a compressor and it looks like like Microsoft 64. I'm not touching that.
I think those are the gems, though.
You think those are the
I feel like
gems?
those,
I think
I
so,
feel like
too.
those would be like the better ones. Like I'm gravitated towards things that look old and like look like vintage. You know what I mean? Versus like those plugins that look super like 2022 and like futuristic. Is like nah.
I'm on the futuristic wave right now.
I'm on that side too, just because I think if you're a developer, I'd rather spend more time and effort on like the actual sound of the plugin or whatever it is, like the mechanics of it, opposed to the aesthetics of it.
I like when the knob on the plugin looks like one of these like on the board. You know what I mean?
Okay. Oh, you don't want any like visual. You just want knobs, and you don't want to see any.
Yeah, just have like a title that says what this thing does, and then a knob, and then like a slider or something.
Yeah, I didn't know what a compressor does until I got FabFilter Pro C.
Right.
Because like just visually it showed me, oh, so that's what the threshold and the ratio means. Oh, okay, I get it. But if it was just like on an SSL looking thing, I'm not understanding this thing at all.
And I think that's kind of like important too, because I'm more of like, I am a visual learner, but I think that plugin companies spend maybe a little bit too, maybe this is just a hot take here, but I think plugin companies spend a little bit too much time on like the visual aspects of it. That takes away from like what you're actually hearing and what you're doing. I'm coming at it from like very much like an engineer kind of standpoint, like learning how to compressor sounds and works, like just takes time. And like, you know, the ear, you have to just develop the ear for it to understand like what it's doing. But like a visualizer for maybe someone like you could definitely help.
Yeah. When I was starting off, because I didn't get that thing at all.
Right.
But just to see like how it responded, and then I can kind of hear it at the same time. It worked wonders.
So I think this is important, like to kind of tie in. It's like yes, definitely like use visual aid, but also do what sounds good at the end of the day. I see a lot of guys like and like as producers too, but like engineers will like find like a curve to a song on the Billboard, and they'll try to mix a song for their song to have the exact same EQ curve as that. And I'm like, bro, like, no.
The reference.
No, that's not how music is made. What got you like wanting to learn how to mix?
Being broke. Brokenness for sure. Bro, that's how I
That's a
went
good motivator for everything.
Bro, everything. Yeah. Like, okay, I guess I can't get a singer, and I guess I better figure this thing out myself. Yeah, mixing, because, couldn't afford it at the time. But it's good to know a little bit of everything.
Do you think it's important to be a good mixer as a producer?
I want to say yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I if I'm thinking like a modern producer, they'll probably have like a Type B page on YouTube. That thing got to be mixed like decently, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say yeah. And I think know enough to be able to communicate with an engineer, like if the time comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like a good producer, like you said, just communicate well enough with the engineer, but be a good mixer themselves too.
Is there like co-engineering? I'm thinking about that.
Co-engineering, like there's definitely co-mixing.
Like you're sitting next to the guy and you're listening to the same thing?
Maybe not so much of that, but like I know that like Young Thug and Chris Brown, like on one of their tracks, both their respective engineers, you know, kind of co-mixed that record together. So I see a lot of that happening, and I'm a big fan of that, because, you know, you kind of get like
different perspective.
You get different perspective, and you're gonna get I think in general just a better record, because you got a little bit more kind of input on it.
Yeah, I feel like I don't see that a lot. Like I see co-production tons, like all over, but I never see like co-mixing, co-engineering.
I think it's more like on the higher level. Like the higher level guys definitely do that, and I know like a lot of guys that, like, you know, let's say Travis Scott features on another artist's record, like his engineer is going to mix Travis's vocals and then send it over.
I feel like it could be challenging to co-mix too, because like you have to be so in tune with your space, right?
Yeah.
So unless the other engineer so happens to use the same room as you do,
the same
it's
speakers,
like same speakers, same settings and everything. It's like
like what would you do if like yo, this kick should be this level, and he's going, nah, it should be this level. It's too high. Like, how do you solve that issue?
A big like a skill that is understanding what they're actually saying. They might say, "Hey, turn my vocal up." That may not be the actual move. The actual move might be, "Hey, I gotta like maybe carve out a little bit more room out of the instruments to let the vocal have a little bit more presence." Right? So I don't always just listen to what other people say. I try to like interpret what they're trying to tell me. Instead, I think that's also should be kind of translated to producers too. It's because if you're working with like an artist and they say, "Hey, I want this type of vibe," or like I want some like 70s style production, you need to be able to interpret that somehow. So what are you kind of like going to do to fit their needs?
I want an 80s melody with trap drums from 2022 and a piano from 1960s. Like, you know what I
And
mean?
sometimes they won't be as descriptive as that.
And
Right?
sometimes they'll describe that and mean something completely different.
Right?
No, not
It's like-
1960s, 1860s. Like, what are you, bro? Wrong century right now.
Exactly.
But yeah.
I feel like communication is one of like the biggest things that translates in all, even when you start getting to like the business side. In terms of like, if you can get communication down, then like you'll be in good shape because the skill could come later.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Do you make like music like in different emotional headspaces?
Like in the same tracks.
Like,
or,
let's say you're like angry.
yeah.
Are you like, if you make music that day, are you kind of resonating like with that emotion that you're having at the moment?
For me personally, no. I'll like practice like opposite emotions. So if I'm angry, I'll probably try to make something a little bit more happy.
Oh,
Just because I know for myself, if I'm making music, I wouldn't want to feed into that negative emotion. If I'm mixing, then I don't mix in a like negative headspace. So like if I'm angry, I'm not gonna mix. I generally try to like whatever the vibe of the song is, I try to kind of like feel what that is and put myself there. Like I just have to be in like a neutral, good headspace to be mixing so that I can then kind of do what's best for the song. But if I'm creating, yeah, that's a different story. How about you?
I can only make music when I'm happy.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
If I'm not happy, I'm not in the mood.
Really?
Yeah, I'll do something else.
Interesting. What would you do?
Anything but music.
Like
Probably I'd play video games. Or
what are some of your games right now?
right now, I'm just going through single player. I'm running through Red Dead Redemption 2 right now.
Oh,
So I gotta finish that one off.
Damn.
Then on to the next one.
That's sick. So are you like a big gamer too?
Massive
Yeah?
gamer. Yeah.
Damn. What about you?
I make stuff strictly off of feel. So like if I'm feeling angry, then like some other person out there is feeling angry too, and it's gonna need something to relate to. So I'm gonna make my beat angry. You know what I mean? And like if I'm feeling happy, I'm gonna make it happy. And it's like just because like feel is so important to me in terms of like music, and I feel like that's what's missing. And when I'm actually creating it, I feel like it translates way more. Because it's like I could actually play some beats that I have and know how I felt at that moment just because of how the beat sounds. You know what I mean? So like if I'm sad, if I'm angry, if I'm happy, you know what I mean? All those type of feelings. If I'm feeling inspired, you know, like the beat's going to come out feeling inspirational. You know? That's just like, that's how my process goes at least.
Interesting.
But it's weird though, like music, like technically isn't, there's no like actual emotion. It's just kind of like a construct we made like as people. Like a major chord isn't like scientifically happy.
Right.
It's just kind of how,
It's how our brains interpret.
yeah, a minor chord isn't technically sad.
Yeah.
It's just like people just been making songs like that.
I think we're good to wrap it up. Thank you, Simon, for coming on. Where can we find you?
Yeah, plug your stuff.
YouTube, Simon Servida, and Instagram, Simon Servida Music.
Nice.
Yeah, that's about it.
Where do we find your course?
Pro Level Beats
Pro Level
on
Beats.
Google.
Gotcha.
And the plugin?
Retrograde plugin.
Oh, he's all in your Instagram bio?
Yeah, it's all in there. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Perfect.
Put you in the network.
All right. Thank you for coming, man.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, man. The Behind the Sound podcast was recorded at the Orange Lounge Recording Studio, located downtown Toronto.